Hello! So I've been back from Bali and my 300-hour teacher training for almost a month now, and I've just been lazy. Pretty much there's no good excuse as to why this is getting to you so late, but I've been wanting to share with you a little bit about the process and the experience that I had doing my 300-hour teacher training, who I did it with, and that whole shebang. So I did it in Bali, in Ubud. It was 28 days, 300-hour advanced yoga teacher training course, which is what YTTC stands for. And yeah, I did it with a company called East West, which means that they bring in teachers and gurus from India to teach us the traditional foundational aspects, elements, and philosophy and teachings of yoga. So it was hands down, without a doubt, one of the most enlightening, eye-opening, rewarding experiences that I've done. So I wanted to share with you just kind of what we got up to on a typical day on the training, so that you can get a bit of a better insight and understanding as to what it was like, and the place that we stayed at, and the meals, and all that jazz. So I guess I'll get to it, but I also wanted to share that if you were thinking about doing your 200-hour training or your 300-hour training, your advanced, I would 150 million% recommend doing it with Yoga East West. This isn't like a sponsored thing or anything, literally just such a great company, and the way that they integrate traditional yoga practices and teachings into their trainings is just like, my heart explodes just thinking about it. So I'll link them below as well if you want to check them out. And if you do, go and let them know that I referred you. Just say Sienna says hey, just because I love them all so much. So it'd mean a lot to me if you did that. Yeah, so I guess I'll get started. In the mornings, I would wake up with the sun. Most mornings, sometimes I slept in. But I really just like to wake up and say hello to the day as the sun says hello to me. A gentle meditation, a walk outside perhaps, anything that's going to consciously bring awareness to slowing down, bringing awareness to gratitude, to the breath, to being present, and to connecting not only to myself, but also to nature. There's beautiful frangipanis in Bali, and they smell so sweet. So I like to find those whenever I can, not even just in the mornings, and smell them. I'd put them in my ear or bring them with me into my practice and on the mat. And then before we did our own teaching practice each morning, I would do my own little practice, whether that be inside in my room, just in bed, nice and gentle, just for 15 minutes, or I'd go outside and move among nature. Bali, if you've never been there before, has some of the most beautiful birds, and the sounds and the songs that they sing. I can't even explain to you how nice it is to wake up to that. So morning practice or teaching practice was silent. So in the mornings we would walk in and give ourselves space and time and silence just to really ground and connect. So mornings were really nice and slow and gentle, but wonderful and beautiful all at the same time. Sometimes we'd be invited to begin with our own practice, nice gentle movements. So after doing my own practice each morning, it was again nice to come back and be reminded that it's okay yet again to take more time for the self. This 30-day training was without a doubt a very transformational space for me, and I liked that the morning practices allowed for that. This is deep. Deep is, I don't even know how to explain Deep. He's the most beautiful souled human in the entire world, and he is so knowledgeable about all things yoga and anatomy, the way that our bodies work from an energetic level and a spiritual level, an emotional level, a physical level. And he was pivotal for all of us, I would say, in our trainings, in learning and uncovering more about ourselves, more about our own practice, and definitely more about how to share that safely and consciously with other people. So here he's helping me into a Firefly Pose very deeply, which I hadn't done quite like this before, and it was very eye-opening and rewarding and liberating to find new ways to do old poses. And if you do yoga, or if you've ever practiced yoga, you'll know what I mean. Here he's trying to help me lift up. Oh, and then I can't do it. I can't believe I used to be able to do so many press to handstands from here. After morning practice, we would often do pranayama, breath work. So this is everyone in the shala going through a couple of the different techniques that Deep has taught us. And this is Deep showing us. He's phenomenal. Like, I can't even watch these videos without smiling, just thinking about how much of a joy and a pleasure he is to be around, and the amount of knowledge and love that he shares so openly and warmly. He gave us a bunch of new ideas on assists and different props that we could use. So here he's using a broomstick behind, I think that might be Ash actually. Hi Ash. Behind Ash's neck and in front of her arms in down dog. Hi ho, hi ho. It's off to breakfast we go. Then breakfasts were always so yummy. Bali has an abundance of tropical fruits, and being at a health and wellness place where they host yoga teacher trainings and retreats all the time, there is copious amounts, like buffets and buffets, more than one buffet by the way, full of healthy, nutritious food. Sometimes on the way back to class, the rice paddy fields were full with mud, and I just had to let my inner child go wild and play and stomp around in the mud for a while. It actually felt really good, and then the mud kind of dried in between my toes and wouldn't leave for a couple of days, which was kind of gross. And then we got ready for philosophy class with Vijay. Vijay is awesome. He's so knowledgeable. Like, he's just full of enlightening stories from his childhood and things that he's been taught through experience, not just through reading textbooks or being taught things in classrooms. He is so humbling and generous and kind and has the world's softest heart. So if you ever get the chance to meet Vijay, I definitely recommend giving him a big hug and asking him a question that you've always wanted to know the answer to, because he will without a doubt be able to enlighten you with either the answer or a equally interesting question for you to ponder upon and find your own answers to. So that's always nice. And then we'd go back into another deep class. We'd get deep with Deep. Just a couple more movements in the shala before we'd head out for our lunch break. There were these cool little ducks around too. This one had a little top hat on. I like your hat, bro. Where'd you get it from? The toilet store? Bad joke. If you've seen Anchorman, you'll know what I'm on about. Lunch again. Lunch was epic. Every single meal here was so good. All the meals are 100% organic. They cater to all kind of diets, preferences, and allergies. So being celiac, they did really well at providing me with enough or substitutes for wheat. And plant-based was super easy there because most of the things there were plant-based, and there was just like a couple of eggs or dairy things for some of the options. So really easy. Sometimes we'd get our abs on, other times we'd go and just like sunbake, walk around, chill together, stay chatting at lunchtime. We were really intense on the abs this day. It was so hot. Or we'd go hang out in the pool. So there's a couple of pools, the place we stayed at. The place that we stayed is called Ananda Cottages. It is insanely beautiful. This is the pool that was closest to mine. Had an infinity pool overlooking the beautiful birds and the palm trees and the rest of Bali. So we'd have about an hour and a half for lunchtime. So you could kind of go to lunch for half an hour and then get some sun for the rest of the time before we'd go back to anatomy. This day we were learning about sexy six packs. Afternoon classes were a little bit slower and more relaxed. We kind of got really run down by the earlier ones. So the afternoons were spent more in going over what we'd learnt in the morning with our teachers and teaching one another the skills and the cues and the alignments and the techniques and the wording that we had adopted and absorbed, hopefully, throughout the morning. So this is deep again, going over lion's roar, lion's breath with us. And then again, he would go over a couple of the things we'd learnt earlier in that morning or add on a couple more, mostly cues for alignment and also for adjustment. So he'd give us some really deep and juicy adjustments, which were always really nice. We'd have a little dance party sometimes just to raise everyone's energy back up because it is easy for it to fall down.
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
So we just finished our last prac for the day and we're about to head into our meditation session, but we had a quick 15-minute break, so I thought I'd head out for a walk and watch the sunset. Sometimes I'd go out for a walk and other times I would drop straight into our afternoon meditation sessions. They were always very different, so we never knew what to expect, but I learnt a lot in them regardless. And then we'd have dinner. So dinners were silent. So I didn't actually film any of the dinners. It seemed a little bit inappropriate to bring a camera and film something that was supposed to be really present and mindful. So I respected that and kept my camera away. And then after dinner was time spent alone. It was nighttime by then, it was dark. And so sometimes I'd go for a skinny dip. And other times I would go back to my room and read, or I'd put on some music and sing and dance around the shower. And then before I knew it, it was time for teach out. So the last week or week and a half was spent in our teams. We were put into groups of 4, sometimes 3. And it was up to us to design classes and to share those classes with the rest of the students. It was really interesting to see everyone's techniques of how they teach, their styles, their own unique personality that they bring to the classes and the way that they structure their classes and their poses. Happy birthday to you. We had a couple of birthdays. We had Deep's birthday. We had my birthday. So after a month here in Bali, we're finally graduating. The graduation was more like a party. Everyone danced around this flower mandala in the middle that they set up and cheered each other on and got our certificates, and we blessed one another. Once you got your certificate, you stood in the middle of the flower mandala. We'd all put our hands in towards you and bless you. And then this is Deep just going crazy as per usual. Highlight of my year probably was meeting Deep. He's a very special soul. Oh, and the mess afterwards. But is it really a mess if it's made of flowers? Not at all. By the end of it, this ended up everywhere. As you can see, it escalated pretty quickly. Flowers ended up in everyone's hair and in all the right and wrong places. So that was good too. The best way to end a beautiful training and a beautiful experience with so many other just extraordinary souls. So that was it. That is what a typical day on our teacher trainings looked like. Hopefully you got a little bit out of this video, and if you're thinking about doing one, again, definitely sign up with Yoga East West because you will not regret it. I absolutely promise you. That's all from me. Over and out.